Good evening, Endo Summit Live, and welcome to this holiday edition, which is an evening for the endometriosis community. Tonight, we are talking all about coping with the holidays. Joining us from Chicago is Kira Newton. Kira, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much. First of all, Dr. Sally Sorrell for having me on tonight. It's an honor. My name is Kara. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Illinois. I work for a large community hospital outside of Chicago, working with patients that have experienced strokes and other chronic illnesses, including different types of cancer, and helping them cope with that. Also helping them throughout their hospital stay and making sure they get the right care at the right time in the right place. And I also am honored to lead the Endo Center Chicagoland, which is a local support group for individuals impacted by endometriosis. We currently run virtual support groups once a month, and we are planning future in-person events throughout the Chicagoland area in 2025. So more to come on that.
Yes, although you'll be with me, you should do a virtual feed of the Endo Summit. You could have someone
Oh,
stay
yeah.
behind. You could and do a feed somewhere so people could watch, maybe.
Ah,
We do that. We have virtual host parties. We typically
okay.
give, we don't. All right. And welcoming, we'll
You
chat.
might have to help
And
me with some of the
also
technology.
welcoming our other member of our mental health team. Please welcome Casey Berna. Casey, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm so grateful to be with everyone this evening. I am also a clinical social worker, and I'm currently licensed in North Carolina and in Florida. Although I feel like Sally and I have shared patients in New York for some time, like when I used to live in New York, and I miss that. And I see patients individually and also have run various different endometriosis support groups really for over a decade now. And I'm also in the process of writing a book on endometriosis and mental health. Yeah.
Did you say you were licensed in Florida?
Yes. So a lot of my patients now are in Florida, and I also work with Cronius Health, and they work with folks who have a lot of comorbidities, which I'm finding more and more endo patients who also have HEDS, POTS, ulcerative colitis. So yeah, and they're encouraging them all to come to the endometriosis summit in March.
Wonderful. Well, you see people virtually or you have to see your Floridians in person?
Virtually.
Oh, wonderful. Because we have a lot of need for that. We have a lot of need for mental health providers across the board, but we have a lot. Obviously, the book is going to do well with its release party at the Endometriosis Summit. But, maybe on Times Square. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing, Casey,
That
on
would
the,
be incredible.
yeah, mental health, not only Casey, but
Casey, I
mental
mean
health.
that might mean me getting on a plane to New York City. So
That would be it. That would be incredible. I would just be grateful, if the book can just help support folks and help them feel seen. That would be incredible.
I think it'll be great required reading in college programs.
There you
that.
go. Yeah.
Yes. All right, so today's topic is about coping during the holidays, and we sort of just wanted to be here. We have some people on the Zoom. We have a lot of people on Facebook, but we sort of wanted to be here to offer space for anybody. The holidays are a tough time. Kira, why are the holidays such a triggering moment for those with endometriosis?
I think it can be incredibly difficult for very many, I speak proper English, a lot of different reasons. I think there's a lot of expectations that go along with a holiday of being with a family, extended family, maybe family or friends that you have not seen in a while. You're not feeling great. So dealing with the pain, dealing with different diets, um, dealing with families not being understanding of what you're dealing with. And then to add the whole complexity, if you are, sadly, if you're experiencing infertility or being childless, that adds a whole nother incredible, difficult complexity on top of everything else. And so there's a lot of grief associated with that. In addition to the grief of seeing your peers having fun and partying and spending time with families can also add to that grief. So there's a lot.
Absolutely. Casey, why do you think the holidays are so triggering?
I mean, I think echoing everything Kira just said, I think it's just a um, physically, emotionally, socially draining time. I think to speak to grief, I think endometriosis patients experience grief on so many different levels. The grief of not physically feeling well. And there's so many expectations of, going to this party, going to this event, cooking, doing this, doing that. And our bodies often aren't up for that. Like it's just hard sometimes to like take a shower. Sometimes taking a shower is exhausting. So putting all of these extra expectations on top of that is really hard. And, they say the season is supposed to be filled with like joy and peace. And, you know, sometimes that's really hard for those of us who are experiencing so many different health issues or going through infertility to just experience. We often just want to be alone. We don't want to see anyone. We're not feeling joyful. We're feeling tired, and maybe we're feeling sad. So just that added pressure to be present in a way that we're just not feeling is very, very difficult.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the stressors. Uh, I love what you said. It's supposed to be a joyous time. Is it joyful for everyone?
No, no.
No.
Mm-mm.
And is it okay to admit that it's just not joyful for everyone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been encouraging some of my patients to embrace their inner Grinch and just say, I'm done. Like, I'm tapping out of this holiday. Like, I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm exhausted. Um, and I like just to tell people like sometimes you just don't have the capacity, and that's okay. Like that's when we have endometriosis, it sometimes feels like our our body hurts, like every cell can hurt. It almost feels like we're in crisis. Like when we have endometriosis, it's like our house is aflame, right? So for people to be aren't you coming to my cookie decorating party? It's like, no, it literally feels like my house is on fire. Like I am in such a state of crisis. Like, no, I can't go to your cookie decorating party. And it's just hard because folks don't understand that.
Kira, what's it like to say no? No
I
is
think
not a simple word, even though it's only two letters.
that's right. I mean, I've been dealing with endometriosis for the past 20 years, and me saying no is something I continue to struggle with today. And I think I finally have gotten to the fact where I just like, you have to sit with that uncomfortableness of saying no and understanding that you're going to let people down, that people are not going to be happy with you. You might get the guilt trip um, from different family members because you're backing away and saying, no, I'm not going to this event or I'm not going to that event. Um, I don't make everyone happy, and I have to be at peace with that because I have to protect my own peace and my own well-being. And it's a really hard concept to grasp and to embrace that uncomfortableness. Um, but I really like, Casey, how you say embrace your inner Grinch. That sounds a little bit kinder than embracing the uncomfortableness.
No, I think it's sometimes, and I think in certain families it's really hard if you're raised in families that have a lot of guilt. There are certain cultures and religions that use sort of guilt and shame as tools to almost like tools of manipulation
Yeah.
of being like, I'm going to guilt and shame you so that you show up in the way I want you to show up. So you do what I need you to do. And it's everyone has the right to put boundaries and to take care of their own peace and their own physical and mental health, because no one else is going to take care of it. And if someone's mad because you're not feeling up for it, you're not feeling well, or even emotionally not feeling well, I think that says more about them than it really does about you.
And it's important to think about that and flip that around when you're experiencing that. Sometimes in the height of the moment, you can't sit with that. You're like, oh, why is this person being like that? But sitting back and taking perspective and like, hey, you're right, this is really about that person, and taking that ownership away from you
Yeah.
and can be helpful.
I think so many of us are raised to be people pleasers, to be caretakers also. Obviously, the three of us, given the professions that we've chosen. But I think the other thing is because people can't see what's wrong, be it pelvic pain or digestive issues or
Hmm.
chronic pain that's associated with endometriosis or infertility, people can't see, and like that it's almost a trigger to be more of a people pleaser and more of a, and it turns into very hard to say no, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like with other illnesses, diseases, there's a lot more awareness, right? There's a lot more of like, if my elderly neighbor has the flu, we know that she's not coming to Christmas. We know that
Hmm.
we're going to leave soup on her doorstep and text her and make sure like she's okay. And there's no expectations, but um, I feel like for endometriosis, for infertility, for those goodness who are maybe going through like pregnancy loss, or it's there's like a stigma attached to talking about it, and it's sometimes really hard to talk about, and often folks can't receive the information well. So it's you almost um, don't get the same level of empathy from folks that you really are entitled to if you're going through all of these things.
Kira, what is your experience wanting to cancel for, needing space for your own body and needing to cancel or say no to something for another reason? Like if you, like for me, like the dog is sick, which the dog is sick, she's recovering from surgery. It's very easy for everybody to understand that, but Sally just can't bring it to the table today because that's where I am in life is usually not an accepted thing.
No, and that's very similar in my family situation. I mean, there's been times where I've been on multiple different pain medications just so that I could somewhat function. And really, what showed up to Christmas one year, and I just remember feeling absolutely miserable. And, I think just like Casey, what you were saying is because it's such an invisible, there's no outward signal of what you're going through. They didn't quite understand how miserable I felt. And so I just finally said, they didn't understand that internal struggle where you want to stay, you want to be there, but I couldn't. I was miserable. And so I ended up going home, and they're like, just go home. You don't want to be here. And I'm like, no, I want to be here. I just didn't feel good. And um,
Now, in
it's,
my house, that would be you didn't respect Nana. Nana cooked all day. You didn't care.
yeah,
That's that guilt manipulation piece again. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or it's like, hey, you had family that came in from out of town and out of state. They're here to visit. Why aren't you? We have all these guests over. Why aren't you like your normal self? And I'm like, I feel horrible. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm try not to vomit because I feel so sick. Um, and there's other times where we were really in the midst, knee deep in our infertility journey, and um, you know, Christmas is a triggering time. Um, and when I would become tearful, it was dismissed. It was like, hey, this is a happy time. We should be happy. It's Christmas. And I'm just like, it's not that simple.
It's never
Uh-huh.
that simple. Go ahead, Kate.
Holding space. I just like, and I understand I'm a recovering Catholic. I know the guilt. So it's like, it's just holding space for, all of us who have gone through this. And I think we continue to try and show up or explain or persuade or persist. Like, I think it really comes down to the fear that if we don't show up, it's like people's love feels conditional sometimes on
Yeah.
showing up or ignoring how we feel physically or emotionally or the trauma we're going through, um, in order to feel loved by some of the family members who do like guilt or shame or put pressure. We have to um, just not pay attention to our needs. And it's so sad. Like, I just want to hold space for everyone like watching this who know this and understand this. And it's really just like are the little person inside of us who are like, can you just accept us and love us and have empathy and not make our lives harder? Here's the thing. I think if our families accepted it and understood it, it like we can deal with the physical pain. It's this other stuff. I think sometimes that's even harder.
Yeah, I think that the fact that many of us are beginning to live in a society that is never going to move towards understanding it is difficult too, especially for our viewers in the US. That has added a whole nother layer of stress and torment. And I think like I've been watching a lot of TikToks for whatever reason. And there's a whole like genre of boys get to do whatever they want at Christmas time, but the mother or the sister or the daughter has all these I would say burdens to make it like a joyful holiday placed upon them. What do you, I don't want to just say, what do you think about the patriarchy? But I think that's very true. It is probably rooted in religion and because in Judaism, it's all about making the children remember the holiday and whatever. What do you think about that? Because a lot of endometriosis falls among our mothers, our daughters, our sisters about that burden at the holiday.
I think that's very much a patriarchal, cultural, societal expectation. Um, and I think in the, Catholic faith that, you know, as a mom, as a woman, married woman, that is the expectation that you're there to serve and to a certain extent. And it's on me for falling into that trap too, is still doing that. So um I think
I
we've
have to
got to
add a
change.
little levity. I have to add a little levity in this moment. I want you to know that for some reason, even though she knows we're live on air, Heather just texted me an article about a group of women taking the scooter shopping carts at Target and just tearing up the Target. And it happened in Florida. So she's like, these are our goals at the Endo Summit. Like, we're gonna just tear
To
up.
totally do that.
Right. And which could be a good segue from grief to anger. I think it's like
Yeah.
yeah, like I would I think there's a lot of anger in the endometriosis community. Casey, what do you think? I mean, obviously you think that there's a lot of anger.
Yeah. I mean, and also hello to Heather. Just shout out to Heather. So I also want to say, just from talking about like often we are not modeled like maternal figures who rest, who take care of themselves, who um, pour into self-care, who have the luxury of thinking about themselves, right? Because I think it is a real because the patriarchy is real, right? Like, and paternalism and all of these things. I can remember my mom being deathly ill with the flu on Christmas, but she wrapped every present, she did all the things, right? Like, and I think sometimes we don't, it takes like breaking that generational cycle of like, I am gonna take care of myself and I'm not gonna model pouring out until like I'm bled dry, right? Like, that we actually need to take care of ourselves. And in terms of anger, geez, we have a lot to be angry about. Like, we still have the same standards of care from, I think it's 2011, 2010, 2011. Every day patients are getting dismissed and even harmed. And there's definitely paternalism and patriarchy throughout like our care, and just how like our disease is viewed. So and it's exhausting. At some point it's exhausting having the whole mental load of the holidays, while also doing all of the things to make it happen, while also feeling horrible. So it's, I don't know, I think anger is a good thing. It can help
I,
set boundaries.
listen, I think the lady who grabbed the scooter at the Target and tore the place up was, I'm not related to endometriosis people out there, but I think that because we go so many years not having a name or a diagnosis, and for the endometriosis, for perhaps the connective tissue spectrum that we're on, for any of the issues that we have, there's anger that you end up turning in on yourself, right? Because you feel like, and I talk to this person at least once a week, who, oh, I have to do everything right for my stomach to feel okay, not realizing that that's a disease, because she's usually already gone to the GI, the GYN, the primary care for 10 years already. And I think people turn that anger back on themselves because they feel like if they were perfect enough, they
Yeah,
would feel better. And then the holidays are a time where there's a lot of pressure to be perfect.
Yeah. And like, I work with patients all the time. Like, that's a learned behavior, right? That like, that often comes from, parents or family members or even providers saying like, well, you should, if you're doing X, Y, and Z, then you should be better. Or you
better.
had surgery and now you should be better. Or you had a hysterectomy and you should be better. Or it's because of your diet that you're not like feeling well, or you're just not choosing to be happy, like if you just stop focusing on your disease. So I think over time, like when we're given all of these messages, sometimes like, and it makes us feel anxious, we take control of that narrative and turn that anger on ourselves, because it's easier if we're saying it to ourselves. Like, at least it hurts less when other people are saying it to us, and it's hard also not to internalize these messages that we've been given forever, that we're the reason why we're sick.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things that I tell my patients as they are struggling with cancer, or individuals I'm working with endometriosis, I just don't give yourself some grace. We
Yeah.
are all humans. We are not expected to be perfect, so
We
just
are,
remember
though.
that.
I think
True.
our population, they are. They're
Well,
expected.
I
They
mean,
went to the doctor. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with them. You must be in your head then. And I think
yeah,
it's tough.
it is really tough. And I know I'm my own worst critic. And that you hear that from your outside sources, whether it's your family, whether it's your providers, whether it's your employer. You're like, hey, get your act together. It's important to remember to try to give yourself some grace. It's something I keep trying to say to myself every single day, so that I'm not beating myself and internalizing that anger as much. Is it a perfect, easy solution? Absolutely not.
Yeah. And endometriosis patients, it's really common for us to have anxiety. And a big sign of anxiety and struggle with anxiety is that negative inner self critic that just keeps
Mhm.
repeating. Absolutely has to do with anxiety because uh yeah and it's hard. There's ways to sort of like unwind that and recognize it and lower it, but it absolutely can be related to anxiety, and often again has to do with a parental figure who told us those same things. I was told that maybe if I ate less chocolate or french fries, my stomach issues would be better. I actually had severe bowel endometriosis.
I,
Hopefully you're still eating chocolate and fries, right?
I mean, that's the best
Yes,
part.
for sure.
But I think a lot of like the fatigue associated with endometriosis, but also with our connective tissue disease crowd, also with anyone who is enduring this challenge because it's tough on you physically and mentally, causes fatigue. I think people who are like, take a nap, or you always complain you're tired. I think that is something that becomes very internalized. Like, think of how many have Hashimoto's and endometriosis, and we're busy telling neither of them are easy to diagnose. Well, they are easy to diagnose, but neither of them are diagnosed very quickly, unfortunately. And how many we're telling them just to go take a nap, eat less, be thinner. Oh, if you worked out more, I mean, how much more can half of us work out anymore? And but it becomes really hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. The fatigue, I think, is the worst. And I mean, there is a lot of things that are the worst, but the fatigue is really hard. And
Yeah.
it's like, are you taking your vitamins? Are you drinking enough water? Like, are you it's like, yep. Still
Yeah.
tired. Still
Yeah. You sure you're sleeping, right? You're sleeping at night.
Well, would then add to it our menopause team. Are you sleeping
Uh,
at night? Now we
no.
have all these disorders and we don't sleep at night.
Mhm.
It's it, it's so much fun
I know it's tough.
being so sarcastic. Sorry.
Yes. Let's
So,
talk about some of the probably top five triggers that we may go through this holiday. Uh let's start with um food. You have to go to somebody's house or even your own house, and you are uh, concerned about indulging. Sometimes people choose to indulge, but that people don't respect you around. What are some ways to manage that? Like when grandma says, "Oh, come on, it's just a little stuffing." Or like for me, even the knife, like, "Oh, whatever. It's just I remember coming home once and and somebody was like, "There's only this much cream in it." And it was like a shot glass of cream. I'm like, "It's still in there." Like, I don't know what to tell you.
mhm.
What do you let's name some tips for how to manage that.
If I'm
Um,
oh, go ahead, Kira. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I don't know. I say I've just kind of lost it with people because it's so hard. And folks were talking about this in my support group. It's like, why you're not gonna eat Aunt Susie's cookies? She's gonna take it so personally. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And like people are trying to be so polite and be like, oh, I ate beforehand, or I have disease impeding my bowel. Like people, and like Aunt Susie doesn't care. Aunt Susie just gets mad. So I don't know. I feel like people should just be like, I'm gonna have explosive diarrhea if I eat this. So you know what? Like I just like, do you want me to have like explosive diarrhea? Like I don't know. People just don't understand. I think the most important thing is
Do you know how many phone calls your mother would get if you complained to Aunt Susie that you can't have? But it's true. The be direct.
Yeah.
like
Kira, what is your survival tip?
Um, I mean, I get joked around that I'm a squirrel because I carry nuts and protein bars in my purse, and I will go and eat them in the bathroom and just say that I already ate. That was one thing. that I've done a lot of in addition to trying just a little bit. Luckily, I've been very lucky in that I've been pretty much able to get away with little things like that. Um,
I
but
like
I,
my tip is bring your own, like, not to add stress to cooking a meal yourself, but not only bring your own, but take your little like plastic container and put it on your dish on the fancy table set.
yeah,
No one's going to complain about it again. No
I
one's going to be like, she's eating mashed potatoes with no butter out of a plastic container on my china. No one's going to complain again.
But here's the thing I try to tell like folks is that if the tables were turned and someone came to your house because they had like a shellfish allergy or like really or like couldn't eat gluten, like any one of us, like people who are patients would go to the ends of the earth to accommodate this person, right? Like it's
mhm,
really just about empathy. So if someone doesn't have empathy for your needs, like you really can't persuade them or not insult them, so you really just have to learn to say like it's okay if I insult Aunt Susie, like it's okay. And if Aunt Susie's annoying, like I've honestly told people, I'd be like, if they're really annoying, I'll be like, that gives me rectal bleeding, sorry, like, and then sometimes people will feel really awkward and like leave it alone. But, it's just you can't please people. You just have to take care of yourself because no one else is going to take care of you.
absolutely. And you can't make everyone happy. And I think you have to think about what you can control and what you can't control. You cannot control Aunt Susie's reaction or anger or replace Aunt Susie with whatever family member you may be thinking of. And just do what you need to do to protect you and your peace and your well-being. And if that means that you say, sorry, gotta go, can't do this, or I'm sorry, now I'm going to spend the rest of the night in the bathroom, peace out, sorry, your bathroom's off limits for the next 2 hours. Um, that's what you do.
Right. I also think, as someone who plans the endometriosis summit, where we have to feed people 3 meals a day for three days, like, and you've been so
Mhm.
right, right now we're in the middle of trying to plan all that and trying to go through. No, it can't be a soy-based protein. No, it can't. I can't serve. You have to have a non-dairy option. You have to have a gluten-free option. No, that's not fair. People don't want fruit for dessert. If somebody else is being offered cookies, you have to make a cookie that everybody can be. Okay, so we know what I go through. And then you can't sort of, people, if they're trying, you have to let them, right? Let
Mhm.
them try, right? So if Aunt Susie is like, gee, I don't even know who Aunt Susie is. If Aunt Susie is like, Casey, I know you called me and told me you couldn't eat dairy, soy, or gluten. So I made these chickpea flour, coconut sugar cookies, which, by the way, were terrible. You can't like stick your nose up when she actually tried. I think that that's part of it too. Like, that's that moment where, like, you don't have to accept anything just because somebody tried, but we can't sort of spit on the other person because they made an effort, which means if I manage to get gluten-free pizzas out at the endometriosis summit, I shouldn't get 50 emails that say we wanted more than pizza.
I love pizza.
I know,
I
but
will
I
take
think
pizza any day.
we can't spin on people who are actually trying, like, because the next coping question is going to be about infertility. But I think I do have some friends that try not to make it all about their like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, when kids are really like cute, because they know what I've been through. We have to, it's not that we have to pat every effort on the back, but we do have to thank people who are making an effort, like, oh, I made the pot roast without tomato because I know the tomato bothers your bladder, not realizing I don't eat beef either. So, you could push it around your plate a little bit till nobody sees it, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. That
Yes.
technique works pretty well.
Okay. So our second, I'm going to leave infertility for last because I think that's a really big one. What about coping with the financial strain of the holidays while having this disease that really isn't covered by insurance in so many ways? Who has tips for that?
Um, just do what you can with what you have, and um, it. I know so many folks right now who are, um, on disability leave, unpaid disability leave, recovering from surgery, um, not sure if they're going to be able to like go back to work, have had like trouble like keeping employment, while also trying to pay for multidisciplinary care. It is so hard. So again, I don't know, some people are just trying to stay afloat altogether. So I think whatever you have the capacity to do, if it's like a Merry Christmas text, I don't know, like I think that has to be okay. If it's, I don't even know if folks have the capacity to make a card or do, just whatever you can do. And everyone's just gotta understand like that people are just trying to survive.
Kira.
I think just those heartfelt intentions, whether it is a text message, whether it's making a phone call, sending greetings through a card or an email or whatever is something that you can do. Because I think even the smallest acts of kindness um, can be completely free and can make a world of a difference to a person during holidays. So it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be some large gift, just sometimes just your presence, just spending time with them can be enough.
I think if it's also okay to say like, hey, this year I'm choosing the gift of, if you're able, the gift of time with you, or because some people, like if you're struggling to afford your prescription medication, or you have to pay off that ER bill or your IVF bill, it's just maybe not in the budget to give little Timmy's who second cousin's son, whatever little present you need to give. And I think years ago, people used to say, well, you could make something. I think a lot of people don't have the capacity to make something. It's just not in them. So, like, I could bake something pretty much always, but that's not where everybody's at,
Yeah,
and it's okay. Like, I think a text is still the gift of time. An email is still the gift of time. And we can send, we can be with people that way too, We're like,
absolutely.
hey, I'm not going to make it in person, but maybe we could do a family Zoom. What have 2020 was great. I remember like Zoom Passover. It was awesome.
Yeah,
And again, anyone who's going to be mad at that and not understand it really has some problems. Like it's monstrous to say back to someone, no, you have to get me a gift, or no, I can't believe you didn't, spend X amount of money on me. Like, and I know.
Or how about at work? I remember I used to, when you don't enter the Magic Santa or whatever it's called. I stopped entering those because I didn't need whatever I was getting, and it wasn't
hmm
for me anymore. And you know what? We need to normalize that. It's
yeah, and
okay.
yeah, absolutely. And even doing like a grab bag gift, $5 grab it. So I have four younger siblings, and so between extended family or just my immediate family, it gets expensive. And so we finally one year threw out the idea of just doing grab bag, like a $10 grab bag gift. And it was kind of fun because it was like people just found random stuff. We made it a joke. So, I mean, be creative too.
I also want to send out to everybody who's watching, you don't need to be ashamed that you can't buy into the commercialism of any of these holidays that are going on this time of year. None of them, none of the holidays
Mm-mm.
are about gifts. And there should be no shame in that either. You don't have to do anything. You don't have, that's the theme for tonight. You don't have to do anything. No Susie's cookies. No, but you don't, there's no shame in that. I remember paying off a surgery one December and I was like, no one's getting gifts. And my family was like, no one cares that we're not getting your gift. Like they just should want you to be well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about let's crack open the box a little bit. Let's divide infertility into two kinds of coping. So the first is the person who doesn't understand why I hate saying silent infertility because it's not really silent. What about that person coping during the holidays? So maybe they're not like deep into their journey with endometriosis yet, but they're overwhelmed with the infertility journey. What are some coping tips for that?
Just give yourself time to feel sad. Give yourself time to just permission to abstain from any and all like of the holiday things that are happening. It's totally okay. So I think one I think a great tip actually from my therapist was over the years is don't participate in anything that you have any resentment towards.
That's like my whole life, Casey. There'll be nothing. There'll be nothing left.
I was going to say, what?
I'll only go to tennis all day, although I have resentment there too. So, that's my whole life.
Sally, that's not good. We have to talk more about
Yeah.
But no, it's true. Like, that little feeling you get where you're like, like, I don't want to do this. But the truth is, like, when you're going through infertility, when you have endometriosis or other comorbidities, you were in crisis. You were in crisis. Even I don't care if no one recognizes it. I don't care if the society doesn't recognize it. I don't care if like your family doesn't recognize it or even know about it. It doesn't matter. Like you are in crisis when you are going through these things. And when you're in crisis, you have to take care of yourself and protect your physical and mental health. And it's okay to abstain. It's okay. Like, and those who, again, anyone with an ounce of empathy will just like support you in that. Like, and that's just the way it's got to be.
And if you're in a situation where you don't have a supportive family or a group, extended family, one of the things that was really helpful for me and my partner is that, if I wasn't comfortable speaking up about our experiences, my partner would just say, hey, just blame it on me, say that he's got a work event or something, or he's on call, he got paged, or where you can step away and leave the situation, and that's okay. And I think Casey brings up a really important point. Don't try to fight it, sit with that grief, sit with that sadness, allow yourself to feel that. That's normal. I'm just going to put it out there. It's normal. You're not crazy. You're not stupid. You're grieving, and that's okay. And so just don't be afraid to say no and do what you need to do to protect your peace.
And this is, and two, it's a moment in time. And like, I think for like, obviously, for infertility, we don't know when or how your family building journey is gonna end, or how or where you're gonna find peace, whether that is becoming a parent or not becoming a parent. Like there's all different ways that journeys like finish, and like this is just a season that is hard, and that's okay. It's okay to respect that and lean into it. And I think that's important too.
I think because I do these intakes now, it's a long story with my life. But and so there's a lot of of the silent infertility intakes, because it's Dr. Vidali's intakes. And I think that, first of all, there's a lot of shame always, and we need to let go of that. There should be, you feel trapped because of your situation, but you shouldn't feel ashamed. But I also think that the framework of fertility society is very goal driven. This is a strange, but right. So like you only think about when it's over and it's okay to be where you are. So like people for the most part, well, when am I going to have my child? When am I going to have the child? Where am I? And when is it going to happen to me? But they don't realize like the season is now, just what you were saying. And I think like you never know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And I also will say, and both of you can speak to this, infertility is never over, even when they hand you the child.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. That
So.
that trauma and fear and uncertainty is very sticky, for sure.
Right. I remember now, Beth Sibbett is not, she's one of our OGs, right?
Yeah.
She told me this story about seeing little baby booties in a window, and she already had her children, but still the little baby booties would make her cry in the store. So she would like walk a different way in the town so she didn't have to walk by the baby booties, because it brings it back up, everything that you went through. It's not just that they like that is all magically gone because you reached the finish line. And I know that the RE will paint that picture for you, but that's not actually what happens.
No, no. My partner and I, we struggled through several years of infertility, and we were lucky and blessed to have our daughter, and it's still with me and it's still with us. And there's times where it does catch you off guard, with either a friend or a family member announcing pregnancy, or friends who are lucky to have multiple children who are sitting there and who are very negative about their children. And I don't mean this in any disrespect. Parenting multiple children can be challenging, I imagine. And so I hold space for that, but sometimes it just hits you the wrong way at the wrong time, and it brings back up those feelings like, hey, I would do anything to have more than one child or to have a child. And so just acknowledging that and sitting with that and accepting grudgingly, I say that sarcastically, that's just part of your story.
I also I meet this with the same bluntness that Casey meets the cookies with. People say, do you have children constantly to me? I mean, I don't get it as much anymore because I hang in the same circle, and I say, I am very upfront for a lot of reasons, but I say, no, I could not have children. And I do that so like maybe they're not going to press like, why don't you have children? Oh, you should have really had a child. Oh, children are great. But also because there's a moment where someone's going to say, oh, I also went through infertility, or oh, that's, and I think it's a connection that you could have with somebody as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the holidays are brutal for just relatives and family friends to talk about really like inappropriate things, and it's often to women like often carry this burden. They often don't like approach men with the questions like, oh, when are you guys having kids? When are you having another baby? I can remember being at an orthopedic doctor's office, and my daughter was probably like 3 at the time, having a miscarriage. I broke a part of my elbow like at the same time.
Oh,
Like it's fine, but and some lady like a older lady was like, oh, like, you have a daughter, does she have any siblings? You're gonna have siblings, like, da 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 da, like. And I was like experiencing my third miscarriage, like, at the time, and it was just like, oh, like. And the holidays are hard enough, and I think folks are feeling really vulnerable. They're feeling really tired. They're grieving, and then having family and friends like just make these really insensitive comments. I can remember I was recovering from, unfortunately, an endometriosis ablation during my infertility journey when I first had my first bad surgery for endometriosis. And I was so swollen, and we had gone through a bit to, get pregnant already. And I'd had this surgery, and my grandma's like, "Oh, are you pregnant? Like, is that why you're swollen?" And when I tell you, I just started crying. Like, I just because it was just too much, and she wasn't trying to be mean. Like, she wasn't trying to be malicious, but it just, like, these times are hard. So if you're feeling particularly vulnerable, it's okay to go home. It's okay to not go at all. It's okay to cancel the holidays this year. Like, it's a moment in time, and you just have to do what you have to do.
I'm also going to say it's okay to go. Like, if you want to go, like,
Yeah.
you should
Yeah.
go. You should do what nourishes you. And you can go and just say, like, this is my boundary. We're not going to talk about
Yeah,
this.
that's
I
true.
mean, and there's times where there was nurses that I've worked with that were like, "Oh, you only have one child. Why? You're Catholic. You should have more." And I'd be like, "Well, I have endometriosis. I've had a hysterectomy. It's just not going to happen." And that shut them up like instantly. So, um,
Yeah, I also, and because I know that there are people out they're experiencing this as well. I think when you're single and you go through infertility, it's still very real. I have at least, I mean, somebody said it to me like last week that it doesn't really count because I wasn't married or I didn't, but it does count. And I think that the other piece of it is you don't have to make lemon just because the three of us are up here and we're trying to hold space for you and trying to make change in endometriosis. Don't No pressure. No, but I don't mean it that way. You don't have to make lemons out of lemonade. You only have to get through this moment and then the next moment. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be some endometriosis infertility champion. Because I think now people feel the pressure. They see it on Instagram or they see it on TikTok and they feel the pressure for that. You only have to be you. That's it.
Yeah, do what you have the capacity for. When I was in the thick of things with infertility, I wasn't advocating like I am now or talking about it. People have to process things differently and in their own time and in their own way. And um, yeah, you have to respect what feels right to you.
I wholeheartedly believe though, this Casey would have turned to the old lady and the orthopedist and been like, I just broke my elbow miscarrying. So I don't know if we're gonna have another one. You
yeah.
change it. Your strength changes over time. I'm telling you, you lose estrogen, but you gain a tongue somehow.
I mean, I am and we are notorious for just speaking. And I think, you talk about anger, and I think at a certain point you learn that, like, literally no one else is going to take care of you, that you have to take care of yourself. And it's really important.
Yes. Okay. So slightly switching directions. I'm checking to see if there are any questions. So the endometriosis summit, my power team of Kira and Casey, our theme this year is get fired up. So my power mental health team is going to lead now workshop on like burning what you don't need anymore, which I think is going to be very, very fun and very cathartic. And I did call the place and they're like, you can't have real fire. So I got to come up with with some sort of, but I would have been really, my dream would have been to have like real fire, but we're going to come up with something good. Don't you worry. Aside from that, Kira, what do you look forward to at the Endometriosis Summit each year?
I just look forward to reconnecting to everybody. I feel like you, Dr. Sally and Dr. Vet have created this amazing community where you feel like home. From the moment you walk in, just connecting with people that understand and get this journey. And
Is
also
the home,
learning.
I don't know what kind of environment you grew up in. Is the home because he and I are screaming at each other behind the stage the whole time? So,
Sounds about
right,
right. You
right.
have to
I mean,
understand,
that's what my home was like.
I
Right,
grew up with three younger brothers and a
right.
younger sister. So
So it's
yeah.
interesting. We had a sociologist look at the summit, and they said that it's not right. My social workers will love this, that I'm Sally and he's Dr. Vidali. And so the initiative at this year's endometriosis summit is that it's either all first names or all last names. And I don't like to be called by my last name. So even the MDs, we're not going to be there. That's the
Hmm.
rule. So like Dr. Young is going to have to be Patrick. That's how we're gonna Andrea. And the funny thing is Andrea tells his patients to call. He doesn't ever use, but that was the, and you just did it. That was the criticism from the sociologist, is that if we're trying to create a even footing between patients,
Mhm.
practitioners, and surgeons, we have to really be on even footing. And the secondary part of it was, it's really not right that like a lot of us are out there killing ourselves and you're only showing respect to the MDs. And I was like, but I don't need my last name. It'll be interesting to see.
Mm.
So that's one of the new
That's
changes.
an that's an interesting observation, and I could see that. I mean, I look at them like anyone else, but that's
Well,
also my
I do too. And I grew up working in hospitals. So like it's such a natural thing that but it doesn't to me mean a differentiation. But
yeah.
this was the then I explained it to Ram and Sadiqa last week, which now I'm like, I have to learn everybody's first name. And they were like, no, we get it. We get it. And then I explained it to Lori Liu, and she was like,
Mm.
oh yeah, screw that. Everybody call me Lori. Like, it was great. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So powerful. Like when I tell you that I work so much with patients, because when you're going into a doctor's office, like an appointment, it's really hard. There feels like, even though like you are paying the provider, right? Like, or your insurance or whatnot, it feels like this unequal power dynamic where we are hoping, wishing, praying like for them to like help us, and we have to show up in a certain way so they won't get angry, or they'll listen to us, or they'll believe us. And it's I think again it speaks to the paternalism like throughout medicine. So to take that away, Sally, that's really powerful. Like to put people on equal ground is so powerful. And I think will have a ripple effect even more than we can anticipate right now.
Yes, well, the interesting thing is, the sociologist, uh, she's the Fulbright scholar who's then like, call me by my first name. And we're like, you're probably the most decorated human in the room. And you're like, oh yeah, I want a Fulbright. Like, don't minimize. Yes, we love. So Chris Bobel, of course, is not joining us this year because she's in Turkey on her Fulbright year, but she is sending, it takes two people to replace her. She is sending two of her best graduates to do a workshop on what's called body mapping, and it'll be an art exploration of self-esteem and society. So everybody's going to be drawing how endometriosis and society and self-esteem sort of intertwine and interconnect. It'll be very interesting. It'll be right after we burn everything that we're done with. Then we can have fresh canvas.
That sounds
That
amazing.
sounds so.
Yes. All right, so we are winding up. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays. I really love this show. You guys probably watch it. It's called Shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last one, the Harrison Ford, which I almost said Han Solo, he says, you know, you, if you have a problem, you're going to call me. And that's the thing. So if you are out there and you're feeling like you need support, and you need to reach out to your tribe, reach out to your community, this community, and allow everybody to support you. And that's very, very important. The Endometriosis Summit is March 28th through the 30th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida, and virtually. We created a new element virtually where there's a virtual broadcast team. During our breaks, when we are in person, the broadcast team is going to answer your questions directly. It's going to be very exciting. So we will see everybody there, right?
Yes, so excited.
Without a doubt.
Book my hotel room. I'm really like pumped to be there, and yeah, so grateful to talk with you both. And it's okay to show up as you are, like this season, whether you're a mom stressing about like getting everything done. It's good to model, self care and just being healthy. And if you're a person struggling, like show up, like you said, Sally, however you can or can't, and that's got to be okay.
Excellent. Anything else, Kira?
I was just say, be yourself and protect your peace.
Yeah.
Excellent. I send love to both my guests this evening. Happy, healthy holidays to you and to the family. And we'll see you guys soon. Miss you both.
Miss you
Bye.
too, my friend. Thank you. Good to see you, Casey.
Okay, bye.
Bye.